And I know students would be impressed with it too, type thing. But what you do is you have relationships here, and you assume certain things happen. For instance, this T stands for tetrapods. The evolution is supposed to have proceeded up through these lines here. Before this, you didn't have organisms with 4 legs. You have the fish here. And 4 legs evolved here, say, and then you have all these organisms have 4 legs, or arms if you want to get into your own personal anatomy. And really here, now, warm-bloodedness, what you find in birds and mammals, is supposed to evolve independently, because birds come from a reptile group that didn't have it. So, and this is often done in these cladograms, where if they find 2 characteristics that they can't quite match up, they say, well, they evolved independently. This is called parallel evolution, and it's used way too freely in these cladograms. But just to show the value of these cladograms, I drew another picture right here. I'll have to admit, my wife and I went to the May Company together because I didn't want people looking at me too friendly as I was checking out women's hats. We checked out different kinds of hats we could find in the store and made a cladogram out of them. And you can see some of the same characteristics. Visors evolved here, so these ones have visors. Ribbons evolved twice by parallel evolution right here, so this one has a ribbon, and it evolved here, so these two have it, type of thing, and so on. And the simple lesson is that these cladograms, which are very sophisticated and impress students very well, these cladograms just tell you similarities, and they use sometimes unique characteristics in this. They just use the similarities, and if it's more similar, then they assume, hey, they evolved more recently than organisms that have fewer similarities further behind, type thing. So that's the pattern here. But keep that in mind. That this the cladogram, which are very impressive. And some evolutionists admit that, hey, cladogram doesn't tell you it evolved. But the assumption is usually made, hey, this is the way it goes, type of thing, and so on. Well, where did our minds come from? Big question, do we have certain these characteristics like consciousness? Some say consciousness is just computation. Others, understanding how to... these characteristics of our mind that are a little difficult for us to understand. Our minds aren't that good to tell what we're doing sometimes. Free will. A significant number of evolutionists say, no, we don't have free will, we're just heredity and environment. Reminds me of this boy that brought his grade card to his dad, a little embarrassed about the bad grades on it. And so he approached his dad. He says, I don't know what the problem is, Dad. Is it my heredity or is it my environment? We don't accept generally that simple type of answer. Probably been better off the other boy that had bad grades, and he brings 2 grade cards to his dad. He says, here's my grade card, and here's yours that I found up in the attic. And anyway, free will is for real. Society holds us responsible for this usually, and so on. But these are not things that you find in matter. You study matter all you want. You don't see these things in matter. Meaningfulness, morality, our principles of morality, they're handed down to us from God, who knows much better than we do. Sense of justice, love and hate, and so on. You study atoms all you want to. study all the matter you want to, you're not going to find those things there. And it's a big question now, of course, in evolutionary studies right now, where the word morality came from. It's there. And why are we kind? Altruism. And a big long story of altruism in the book. E.O. Wilson, the one who has been the father of altruistic studies at Harvard University for 20, 30 years, been advocating a certain mathematical law of kin selection. Just 2 years ago, he said, hey, kin selection doesn't work. The very core of altruistic behavior explanations dropped by the leading father of the concept itself, which again shook up the biological world, at least the behavioral biologists, and so on. Well, so this is part of the picture that we hope gives us the scientific data that tells us, hey, there's got to be something beyond all this. Just a summary to review with you what we've been talking about. We talked about matter being very well organized. We talked about the forces of physics. We talked about life being so complex. We talked about organs and the fact that process of survival of the fittest would interfere with the evolution of complex systems. We talked about time, given billions of years, totally inadequate if you do your calculations. Fossils, gaps, all over the place. I mean, it's not just the Cambrian explosion. There's a mammalian explosion. There's an Avalon explosion of Ediacaran forms just associated with the Cambrian one. Birds, 12 million years, most of your modern bird groups develop. I mean, this is totally impossible in terms of rates of evolution. How could you just evolve all that when birds, they don't reproduce all that fast. Fossils, we talk about the Cambrian explosion and so on, and the mind type of thing. So, the other point I want to mention is the question about fashions in science. Sometimes a rejected idea, again, is adopted as true. So keep that in mind in scientific thinking. Scientists used to believe in catastrophes, and for 130 years they rejected the catastrophes. Now they accept catastrophes again. Scientists used to believe in spontaneous regeneration. They rejected spontaneous generation because of the work of Foster, and then now they accept spontaneous generation as the way life originated first, although they admit it doesn't happen right now. So, ideas can change. Ideas can change. And a picture here of how fashions can influence scientific thinking. This is a fossil bird called Archaeoraptor. The head's right up here, and the legs are right here. These two legs happen to be the same leg that was reflected as they glued these various parts together. And then you have the tail of a dinosaur here. Purchased for $80,000 for a museum in Utah.